Commissioner Gordon, Bane has escaped.
Change does not arrive politely. It does not knock on your door and wait for you to invite it in. It stands outside, breathing heavily, waiting for you to break your own lock from the inside. Life will hand you the same patterns over and over until you decide to rip them apart. You can wish, you can pray, you can whisper to the night sky for a miracle, but nothing shifts until you choose to become the miracle. Stagnation is a choice made in the quiet moments where action was possible, yet you sat still. You tell yourself you are waiting for the right time, but the right time does not exist. There is only the moment you decide you have suffered enough from the weight of your own hesitation. Comfort is the most silent form of decay. It keeps you alive, but it does not keep you living. You may feel secure in the predictability of your days, yet that security is only the slow wrapping of chains around your ambition. The longer you stay unchanged, the more those chains blend into your skin until you forget you were once meant to be free. Change requires the burning of old versions of yourself, the ones built for survival but not for greatness. If you do not set fire to the walls you've outgrown, they will close in on you until there is no air left. Every day you repeat the same thoughts, you live the same outcome. You may switch locations, switch company, switch schedules, yet the core remains untouched. Change does not care for the scenery. If the mind remains the same, the destination will always feel familiar and not in a comforting way. You will meet the same people under different names, face the same problems in altered shapes, because life reflects the state of your own architecture. To break the loop, you must change the blueprint, not the furniture. People think change comes from grand acts, from leaving the city, quitting the job, ending the relationship. These can trigger transformation, but they are not transformation itself. True change is forged in the small, brutal decisions that no one sees. The decision to wake earlier when no one is watching. The decision to confront your weakness instead of dressing it as preference. The decision to say no to the distractions you once worshipped. Without these quiet revolts, the louder moves become nothing but theatrics. You must be willing to endure the discomfort of becoming unrecognizable to those who have known you longest. Change will cost you the approval of the old circle. They will cling to the version of you that suited them. They will question, they will mock, they will call your growth arrogance, because they cannot bear to watch you escape the gravity that still holds them. If you are afraid to be misunderstood, you will never be free. If you are afraid to be alone, you will never meet the version of yourself that could lead you forward. Fear pretends to be your protector, but it is your jailer. It will whisper that change is risky, that you might lose what you have. It will not tell you that refusing change guarantees you lose what you could have had. The safest path is the one that rots the soul the slowest. There is no safety in staying the same, only a delay in the collapse. Every decision you make without change stacks the bricks of a prison built by your own hands. Change demands you break your own habits before they break you. You cannot carry old thinking into a new life. If you do, the new life will collapse under the weight of the same mistakes. Every choice either takes you closer to the person you could become or keeps you chained to the one you already are. This is the truth most avoid because it removes the comfort of blaming circumstances. You are not waiting for life to give you permission. You are waiting for yourself. The power has always been in the decision you postpone. Days turn to weeks, weeks turn to years, and you still hold the same excuses in your hands. If you refuse to change, life will eventually force you to, but the cost will be far greater than if you had chosen it willingly. Voluntary change is training. Forced change is survival. There is a reason the same challenges visit you again and again. They are not punishments, they are invitations. Every unanswered invitation makes the next one harder to accept. Change grows heavier with neglect. The longer you avoid it, the sharper the blade becomes when it finally cuts. If you face it now, you can shape it. If you delay, it will shape you, and it will not be gentle. You already know what needs to change. You have known for longer than you admit. You are not short on clarity, you are short on courage. The longer you wait, the more your potential becomes a ghost that follows you, whispering what could have been. If you do not change, nothing will. And nothing is exactly what you will be left with. The brain is a miser when it comes to energy. 20% of your body's total fuel is burned by that small mass of tissue behind your eyes, and it spends every second looking for ways to conserve that fire. That is why repetition feels safe. It is why habits, even the destructive ones, become invisible anchors. Change demands more fuel, more rewiring, more alertness, and your biology does not offer it willingly. Survival for your ancestors meant conserving energy for hunting, fighting, and escaping danger. Reinvention was not a priority. Your mind still carries that primitive bias, even in a world where survival is no longer the measure. When you try to change, you wage war against your own wiring. Every new choice disrupts a pathway your brain has paved smooth over years. The familiar requires almost no effort to run, like a machine already oiled and warmed. The unfamiliar grinds against resistance until you either force it through or abandon it. This is why most retreat into old ways after a few days of effort. They mistake the discomfort for failure instead of understanding it as the price of construction. If you expect change to feel natural at the start, you will wait forever. The cost of new thinking is immediate, but the return is delayed. That delay is where most people quit. They run from the silence before the results arrive, back into the noise of habits that give instant satisfaction. But that instant satisfaction is rented comfort, and the rent rises every year you pay it. To override your default, you must stop asking for change to feel good. It will not. It will feel like friction. It will feel like holding your breath underwater. But that is the signal that you are moving beyond the fence your biology built. Your brain cannot tell the difference between a predator stalking in the grass and a new skill that threatens to exhaust you. It reads both as risk. The difference is that one ends your life and the other changes it. If you let the same survival alarms run unchecked, you will defend your own cage. You will call it stability, but it will be the slow erosion of what you could have been. That is why change must be an act of rebellion against a structure that pretends to be your ally. This resistance is not proof that you should stop. It is proof that you have touched the edge where growth happens. Most never get there. They orbit around the same safe patterns, praising their consistency while quietly knowing they are only repeating a script. To rewrite the script, you must force your mind to spend the energy it does not want to spend. You must treat the exhaustion not as a warning, but as confirmation that you are prying open a door it wanted to keep shut. The brain is not the enemy, but it is not your guide in this battle. It evolved for a different world, one where novelty could mean danger. Now, novelty is the only way forward. You cannot negotiate with your default setting. You can only overrule it through decisive, repeated action until the unfamiliar becomes the new familiar. Once that happens, the brain will adapt and the energy cost will drop. But it will not drop until you have proven to yourself that the new path is worth keeping. If you do not take control, you will confuse comfort for truth. You will think the patterns you repeat are who you are, when in reality they are just the least expensive version of you. Energy efficiency is not the same as destiny. You can live an entire life without ever meeting the version of yourself that exists beyond the limits of what feels easy. That is the tragedy most carry silently. Change is a manual override. You will not stumble into it. You will not find it while staying on the track your mind already knows. It requires force, deliberate friction, and a tolerance for discomfort that outlasts the old reflexes. Every day you step toward that override, you teach your mind that it no longer calls the shots. You call them. That is how you reclaim control from millions of years of conditioning. Biology does not care about your dreams. It cares about keeping you alive in the cheapest way possible. But survival is the lowest standard to live by. You were not given consciousness to merely repeat yesterday until your time is gone. You were given it to create something that did not exist before you. That will never happen on the default setting. The endowment effect is the quiet manipulator of human behavior. It keeps your hands clutching what should have been released long ago. It whispers that what you have is too valuable to lose, even when what you have is nothing more than a worn-out version of a life you have outgrown. Behavioral economics explains it as a bias, but in practice it is a chain. You tell yourself the routines you keep are stable, safe, proven, but you do not see the invisible tax you pay for holding on to them. You treat them like treasures because they are familiar, not because they are worthy. That is how comfort disguises itself as necessity. This effect works not only on objects but on identities. You will hold on to an outdated self simply because you have invested years into building it. You will defend habits that have already hollowed you out just because they took effort to form. Even when a better future stands in front of you, you will hesitate to trade what you know for what you could have. The brain convinces you that loss of the familiar is more dangerous than gaining the unknown. This is how dead routines survive long after their purpose has died. The endowment effect does not ask if what you hold has value. It only asks if it is yours. Ownership alone inflates its worth in your mind. That is why you stay in the same job that drains you. That is why you keep the same circle that no longer inspires you. That is why you keep the same patterns that have not taken you anywhere in years. The longer you own something, the more you resist letting it go, even when letting it go is the only way to move forward. This bias is a survival leftover. In ancient times, resources were scarce. Giving away what you had, even for something potentially better, risked leaving you with nothing. Your brain still reacts with that primitive suspicion. It does not care that the world has changed, that opportunities are now abundant for those willing to move. It cares only about protecting the inventory you already own, even when that inventory is rotting. You must learn to see the endowment effect as a predator disguised as a guardian. It will keep you in a room you have outgrown, locking the door from the inside. It will have you believe that your current reality is too precious to risk, even when that reality is the very thing holding you back. Breaking free means valuing potential over possession, the unseen over the already claimed. The cure is brutal honesty. You must measure your routines not by how long you have kept them, but by how far they take you. You must ask if you would fight to keep them if you were given them today with no history attached. If the answer is no, you are living under the spell of this bias, and spells do not break themselves. They must be shattered by conscious choice. Every breakthrough demands a sacrifice. You will not carry your old self into your new life. Something must be left behind. The endowment effect will scream that you are losing too much. But what you are truly losing is the dead weight that has slowed you for years. You cannot climb while dragging the corpse of who you used to be. You cannot run while gripping the chains you forged in the name of safety. Those who rise are those who understand that value is not in ownership, but in utility. If it no longer serves, it must be released. Holding it longer does not increase its worth. It only increases the cost you pay for keeping it. Every day you defend the familiar. You delay the unknown that could have transformed you. The ship of Theseus is more than a philosophical riddle. It is the blueprint for transformation. Imagine your mind as the ship. Every thought is a plank. Every habit is a nail. Every belief is a sail. As you replace these pieces, the vessel begins to change. The lines of the hull shift. The weight of the deck alters. The way it cuts through the water becomes different. Replace enough, and you are no longer captaining the same craft. Yet most people stop halfway. They change a few planks, then convince themselves the ship is new. But the sea will expose every piece they left untouched. Identity is not fixed stone. It is assembled wood. Every belief you carry was chosen, taught, or inherited. Every habit was built or borrowed. Every thought pattern was shaped by repetition. If you accept these without question, you sail the same ship until it sinks. But if you strip them, plank by plank, and replace them with stronger, truer pieces, you evolve. The paradox asks if the ship remains the same when every part is replaced. The truth is that the old ship survives only in memory. In practice, it has been reborn. The danger lies in stopping before the work is complete. You may replace your goals but keep the same self-doubt. You may change your environment but keep the same excuses. You may shift your words but keep the same fears. The ship may look different to others, but beneath the surface it still drags the same rusted anchor. Real change means refusing to leave a single rotten board in place, no matter how comfortable it feels to keep. Replacing yourself is not a weekend project. It is a lifetime of deliberate swaps. Each one demands you let go of something familiar. Some pieces will be easy to discard. Others will feel like tearing out the keel. You will cling to certain habits because they carried you through storms in the past. But survival tools are not the same as growth tools. Some must be honored for what they gave you, then thrown into the sea. The greatest resistance comes when the ship no longer resembles what you remember. This is where many retreat. They fear losing themselves without realizing they are already lost if they refuse to change. You cannot cling to the old and still claim the new. You must choose. And the choice will be made not in theory, but in repeated action, replacing every outdated part until the old you is nothing but a ghost in the wake. There is no point where you arrive and the ship is safe forever. The sea corrodes, the storms batter. Even the new planks will one day weaken. That is why the replacing never stops. Identity is maintenance. Stop replacing long enough, and you will find the old self creeping back in, quietly reclaiming territory you thought was gone. The ship of Theseus is not about objects. It is about commitment. Will you continue replacing yourself until the end, or will you let the rot return? Will you keep asking whether you are still the same person, or will you accept that becoming unrecognizable to the old version of yourself is the point? The paradox only confuses those who want to keep the comfort of who they were while pretending to be new. Those who have truly rebuilt know there is no conflict. The old you is gone because you chose for it to be gone. The new you exists because you kept building until nothing remained of the old. Change is not proven by what you add, but by what you are willing to remove. If you leave one decayed beam in the hull, the ocean will find it. It will splinter under pressure. Complete replacement is the only protection against sinking back into what you escaped. The older you get, the more time stops feeling like a steady march and starts feeling like a sprint you did not sign up for. When you were young, a year felt like a mountain. Summer vacations stretched into eternities, and waiting for your birthday felt like an odyssey. That illusion fades fast. By the time adulthood grips you, the years have learned how to cheat you. They slide by without your consent. Part of this is biology. Your brain processes the new slowly, forcing you to live it in full detail. It processes the familiar quickly, barely giving you a memory to hold. That means a year without change is a year that vanishes faster. And yet, many choose that vanishing on purpose. They mistake repetition for security. They think if they hold still, they'll somehow be in control. What they don't see is that holding still is exactly how you lose control. Time accelerates when you stop giving it new reasons to slow down. This is why change is more than ambition. It's a survival strategy for the mind. If you fail to change, you hand your life over to the blur, and the blur does not care if you're ready. Without change, decades collapse into sameness until they're indistinguishable from each other. You may think you're living, but you're only aging. Every year without change becomes a photocopy of the one before it. You go to the same places, talk to the same people, think the same thoughts, and in doing so, you erase the only thing that gives time weight: contrast. Memory needs difference to exist. Without difference, time folds in on itself. You'll look back at a 10-year span and realize you can't tell where one year ended and another began. This is the real danger of routine. It's not just that it bores you. It's that it robs you of the ability to see your own life clearly. You become a ghost who shows up to the same life every day without leaving evidence you were there. This is why people wake up at 50 with the same frustrations they had at 30. It's not because they never had the chance to change. It's because they kept choosing not to. Time doesn't slow down out of pity. It only slows when it's forced to. And the only thing that forces it is novelty. New experiences are the anchors that make days feel long and years feel rich. They are the weight that keeps life from slipping past you unnoticed. That's why certain years in your life feel eternal. The year you moved to a new city, the year you fell in love, the year you broke and rebuilt yourself. These years were full of change, so your brain had to record every detail. Without these anchors, life is just a fast, moving current, and you are too passive to resist it. You need to build deliberate change into your life, not because it's exciting, but because it's the only way to fight the acceleration. You cannot drift into a life worth remembering. You have to build it piece by piece, and each piece has to be different from the last. Your dreams have an expiry date, and not because they're impossible after a certain age, but because you won't be the same person. The version of you who wanted them will fade. The fire that once pushed you will cool. You'll rationalize your delay with excuses about timing, about responsibilities, about maturity. But the truth is simpler. You waited too long, and now the dream no longer fits. The older you get without taking action, the more the cost of chasing that dream rises. What could have taken 5 years now takes 10. What could have been done with raw courage now needs twice the effort, because you've trained yourself into caution. You think you're waiting for the right time, but time is the one thing that isn't waiting for you. Change is not just about gaining new things. It's about preventing the decay of your ability to want them. Without change, your capacity for desire shrinks. You start aiming smaller, thinking smaller, and settling more often. It happens quietly. You don't even notice you're doing it. One day, the dreams that once felt electric will feel absurd. Not because they were unrealistic, but because you let time turn them into strangers. This is how ambition dies, not in a sudden collapse, but in the slow erosion of years spent tolerating the same reality. The expiration date of a dream is set by your willingness to keep it alive through action. Every day you repeat without change, you are telling time that you don't mind if it runs faster. You are telling your mind that you don't need new memories, new challenges, new victories, and your mind will obey. It will trim the details, speed up the hours, and condense your years into something small enough to forget. You can fight this, but not by accident. You fight it by deliberately breaking your own patterns. You fight it by stepping into discomfort before comfort becomes a coffin. You fight it by living in a way that forces you to notice you are alive. The tragedy is that most people won't realize the cost until they're looking back. They'll wonder why time seemed to vanish, why they can't recall what happened between 2 decades. They'll think it's age, but it's not age. It's repetition. They'll believe they've been living because the years have passed. But living is not the same as existing. Existing is automatic. Living is intentional. Without change, you will only exist. The only way to stretch time again is to treat it as something you must earn. You earn it by feeding it new experiences to digest. You earn it by confronting your own resistance and moving anyway. You earn it by refusing to let days blur into weeks without something distinct to separate them. If you cannot remember what you did 6 months ago, it's a warning, not of bad memory, but of wasted time. Time to take back control.